Hi, I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Natalie.
Today we're talking about Dick Van Dyke Show. Hit the intro. You're listening to TV Tangents, a retro TV podcast. So let's dive right into it.
Yeah.
I watched a ton of this show recently in the last few weeks.
Yes. I've only watched a few recently.
Actually, right now my next novel takes place in that era. So I started watching it and then I was like, oh, this is really good for me because I need to be immersed in that era anyway. So that was really good. And I super enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And I've never watched this show when I was growing up. Like I've seen the show because like my mom would watch it, but I never watched it because it was kind of boring for a kid.
Yeah.
If you were bored in the 90s and you turned on Nick at Night, you would see that it was in the middle of Dick Van Dyke, and then you would like watch some of the episode.
Yeah.
But it was really like a background thing.
Yeah.
And I think that it's because it's not like about a family. Even though they have a family, the show is about the adults.
Yeah. It's about the adults in the show that he's writing for.
Yeah. And it's all adult situations. And sometimes their kid comes in and they do stuff.
And he just kind of talks.
But he's like rarely in it. So I think for a kid, I was like, well, this is boring. I don't care about adult stuff. But now.
And it added to the flair of comedic humor that goes around, like the physical humor, the falling down, that kind of stuff again, too.
Which I don't think, there was a lot of slapstick humor, but I don't think that this show relied so heavily on the slapstick. It was just a thing that was there.
It was in every once in a while. It wasn't constant.
So why don't we imagine what it would be like to watch the show in its first run?
Yes.
It ran from 1961 to 66. So let's drop ourselves into like the second season of the show.
Oh, let's please do.
So it's fall of 1962. You're wearing a dress.
I am totally wearing a dress.
You're sitting down with your family to look at television.
Yes.
And it's Wednesday night at 8:30 in the Central Time Zone. That's pretty late. You've just finished watching the second half of Dobie Gillis because you were watching The Dishes while your ungrateful family sat on the Davenport and watched it because they don't do anything.
So true.
Then came The Beverly Hillbillies, was on after Dobie Gillis. Now, so you did get to watch that.
Also, did my husband retire to the living room so he could watch the TV? He could look at the television.
He retired to the
living room. I brought him his coffee.
Yeah.
So because he asked for it, and then I was like, oh, of course that's my job. So what he did was he finished up his supper. Yes.
And then he retired to the living room while you washed up the kids' faces and hands.
True.
And then sent them to the living room to look at TV with Dad.
Oh, perfect.
So then you cleaned up and while they were watching Dobie Gillis. So you've really never seen any of the beginnings of any episodes of Dobie Gillis.
No, ever. Never.
But you do get to sit down and watch The Beverly Hillbillies.
I love it.
Which is the #1 show at the time, by the way.
I can imagine that it was. We have to talk about Beverly Hillbillies.
We need to talk about that.
At some point.
You picked Beverly Hillbillies over Perry Como's Kraft Music Hall, which is in color, by the way, at this point.
Back in the day. Like it.
Now you can turn over to ABC and watch Our Man Higgins if you want to. Oh. But it's going to be canceled in about 6 months.
Oh, no.
Or
then I don't want to get sucked in.
You don't want to get sucked into that. So you can go ahead and stay where you are and watch Dick Van Dyke, which is ranked 9 out of the top 10 shows of the season.
As I'm watching this, as I'm looking at the TV, this Dick Van Dyke is looking a little, he looks a little dapper to me, kind of a handsome man.
He's pretty handsome.
I kind of like him.
You're right.
I'm sitting there thinking, I hope my husband doesn't pay attention to me looking at this television thinking he's kind of handsome.
Right? You're just kind of feeling yourself like this.
I did. I was like, oh, great show. I'm a little hot from doing the dishes. That's all.
You're right that when I was a kid, he was like a funny man.
Yeah.
And
in our age, thinking of Dick Van Dyke, I'm thinking of old Dick Van Dyke.
Oh, yeah.
So then I started watching this recently, knowing we were going to talk about it. And I was like, well, hey, Dick Van Dyke, how you doing?
Yeah, but you know what? Dick Van Dyke now looks just like Dick Van Dyke then plus old age makeup.
And white hair. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because remember in Mary Poppins, original Mary Poppins, when he played the old man, he looks like that now.
He looks like current Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
So absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's swing back here because I'm tired of being in the 60s and I don't want to clean up after these people anymore. This is crazy.
Right. I don't want to play that game.
I need my modern conveniences. So anyway, like I said, the show ran from 61 to 66. It's about a TV writer named Rob Petrie, and it takes place on 2 main sets.
Yeah.
They don't really veer from that very much.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do.
Like their home and then the office.
Their home and his office. Yeah. Carl Reiner originally wrote the show for himself to be the lead role. It was called Head of the Family.
Oh, nice.
And a pilot was filmed, but it flopped. So the pilot was filmed a year before Dick Van Dyke actually ran, but it was no good. So it was recast completely.
Yeah, Carl Reiner would not be so funny in that, or I don't think would be quite so,
Okay, so was
it the same premise?
Much? It was the exact same show. The characters were all the same names. His character, Rob Petrie, was kind of a sad sack, like downer kind of guy, and he was always messing up and sad. And his wife seemed kind of older. I'm not really sure. I don't know. And then the kid was awful. The kid hated him.
Oh, no.
And was always bratty. Couldn't stand that kid. So it wasn't a great show. They completely recast it with the same characters for the most part. He had considered Johnny Carson for the lead role.
Oh, interesting.
Which I guess I can picture, but I don't remember ever seeing Johnny Carson act in anything, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But he found Dick Van Dyke in a Broadway performance of Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh.
Which he also did the movie. Yeah. Remember? Carl Reiner did get his part in the show, but he was Alan Brady, who was the boss.
The show.
Yeah,
right?
Rob was a writer for the Alan Brady show. But in the first half of the series, you never actually saw him.
Right.
It was just his voice. You can see the pilot on Hulu. The set for that show is super basic. It's like more basic than anything.
Than the actual show.
Yeah. And it's a super boring show and it wasn't great. In that pilot, their last name is pronounced Petrie instead of Petrie.
Oh. It looks like it should be Petrie.
It does look like it should be Petrie, but maybe they thought better of it. But like I said, I've been watching it on Hulu. And one cool thing about Hulu is that on like every show has a homepage and then they have a grouping of the most popular episodes. Yeah, so that if you're not really familiar with a show and you don't know where to start, you just go there and it shows them the popular
Because I always Google like most popular episodes of blank, and then they kind of tell you it, and then you have to search for them. And sometimes they're not everywhere, but that's awesome. Didn't know that about the Hulu.
So Hulu, please sponsor our show.
Please do.
That would be nice. They have a lot of old shows on there. I love it.
And now, am I understanding that there was also one of the producers of this show? I think I read somewhere, and I feel like this is the right name, and maybe I need to use the Google. Sheldon Leonard, I guess, was one of the with Carl Reiner. And I swear I read somewhere when I was looking up stuff about the Dick Van Dyke show that Sheldon Leonard is the guy who plays possibly Nick the bartender in It's a Wonderful Life.
That could absolutely happen.
That up, but now I'm gonna use the Google.
If you're gonna use the Google in the middle of the show,
we're in the middle of the show, but we're talking about the Dick Van Dyke show.
You know we don't Google stuff. I'll go ahead and keep on talking.
You can keep talking, and I can look and do all my things at the same time.
Well, okay. So as I was saying before, a lot of shows from that time didn't really age well, or their jokes were, have been overdone.
Yeah.
Like you see old shows and you're like, oh, that same old joke from forever. But even though that may be where the joke originated, but Dick Van Dyke seems fresh. And there were a lot of situations that weren't like slapstick and ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think it holds up well because of that, because it had really different stuff. It's really the one-liners that make you laugh.
Yeah.
Like I laughed out loud at this show when I was watching it recently. Like I don't laugh out loud a lot at old shows. I don't know if you do.
I do sometimes, and this one was a little bit. Did you see the episode where he went to his kids' school and they had like the dads would all come in and say what they did for a living?
No.
So that was like in the first season, and he they never asked him, and a couple dads had been there twice because he was a comedy writer. And they're like, what's he going to talk about? And even the little boy didn't want him to come. Like his son didn't want him to come.
But that's the coolest dad.
Right. But then he gets up there and even the teacher's like, okay. And he didn't know what to say. And then all of a sudden he told a few jokes, or he started doing physical comedy. And then like he fell, he goes, what makes a good comedy show? And he tripped over a step and all the kids are like, ah! And he goes, see, because you didn't expect that. And then he like went in this huge spiel, and then he was like everyone's favorite. And it was so cool because I was like, oh, that's interesting that he kind of put in that part of the show. Plus that's who he is anyway at this point. So it was really kind of cool. I was like, and I was laughing like a little kid because I'm like, this is fun.
It's a funny show. There's a lot of, especially like Sally and Buddy's relationship, they made me laugh the whole time.
Yeah.
Because they're always funny.
Yeah.
And they're always relatable.
And you're talking about the big man, correct?
The big man. We're going to get to the big man.
Okay. I just had to go there because I was like,
there.
oh my God,
we're
all I see is the big man.
So one of the unexpected situations that I was thinking of that will never be repeated, I don't think it's repeatable because of the way that they did it, was when Rob was convinced that their son Richie was switched at birth at the hospital. I don't know if you've ever seen this episode.
I didn't see that one.
It is one of the most famous episodes.
Interesting.
They're at the hospital and there's a family in a similar room. So they're in like room 208 and this family is in room 203 and they keep getting given this family's stuff. So they get home and Rob is convinced that they got these people's baby because everything's all crazy at the hospital.
Yeah.
So he has the neighbor friend helping him like footprint the baby and everything to check. And also
Did that happen on Full House?
That happened when Jesse...
He messed up the twins. Okay, different scenario.
He messed up the twins and then Stephanie was like, I put nail polish on my turtles back.
And by the naked eye, they looked at their feet print and knew which baby was
right,
which.
Sure.
Okay, tangent, sorry.
Yes. Okay, but so that happened. But in this situation...
Yes.
So Rob calls Mr. Petrie. Wait. Mr. Peters, sorry. He calls Mr. Peters. So Mr. Peters is the other one in the... That's why they kept mixing them up. Because the other family is Peters and they're Petrie. So he's convinced this is not his baby. So he calls Mr. Peters and he's like, we have your baby. Which also, Mr. Peters... I think Mr. Peters called him first, though. Because they got... some figs or something that were meant for the Petries. So he was calling him to say, oh, we're going to bring over your figs or whatever. So he's like, good. Rob's like, oh, we have something of yours. And he tells him their babies got mixed up. And Mr. Peters is like, I 100% know that's not true. Because Mr. Peters knows who Rob Petrie is. He knows that he writes for the Alan Brady show. Yeah. And he knows what he looks like. So when the couple shows up, it turns out they're black. And they are cracking up because they know. And it's like, and nobody really says anything. They just walk in and everybody's laughing. And it's just, the whole situation is very unique. And it's very different for that time period. And it's not something that you would just like throw on a sitcom again.
Yeah, so, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's like one of the most famous episodes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Also, we like to talk about TV houses.
Yes.
And theirs is a nice little ranch with a cool modern kitchen.
I do like the kitchen.
But they do have the most random seating in their living room. And they could seat 18 people in their living room. I counted. 18 because people. They have like an L-shaped couch.
They do.
They've got like ottomans everywhere. Couch. They've got another couch. They've got a dining room table.
And I read that there was... Okay, so I didn't see any colorized episodes of this. No. Apparently they were like, they colorized it.
I don't...
And there was a big controversy with Carl Reiner because apparently the couch was like a yellow, orangish color that he was like, no one in the history of life would have this color couch. I read that and I was like, oh, but I didn't get to see any. And he goes, I guess he almost quit over it. Like he was like, we can't colorize. Like he freaked out about something. And I was like, oh my God, how weird. I've only seen it in black and white. So did that really happen?
It was never broadcast in color.
Oh, okay. So I don't know.
So why would he freak out about
maybe
the couch?
Maybe he just like didn't like it like while they're actually filming.
Maybe he's like, I don't want to look at that couch.
What if at some point this happens and it's color?
So funny.
I know. I was like, that's so, because that L-shaped couch, it just stuck out in my mind. And I was like, huh.
It's like there's the couch, there's a table, there's like another table.
The dining room's like in the same room.
Yeah.
Because there was also an episode where, so his wife, who's played by Mary Tyler Moore, and what's her name, Laura?
Laura.
And she says, they're eating dinner, and she's like, why don't you two retire to like the sitting room and I'll get the coffee. So
which is right over there.
And he goes, where's the sitting room? She goes, right where you're standing. And they're like,
we're so funny.
I was like, oh, too funny. But it's literally like a giant table where they're sitting in the big living room.
Yes,
where
it's an open concept.
Yes.
But also they have like that window that opens and they have bar stools right there. There's like 4 bar stools.
That's so cool.
So yes, you've got couches, ottomans, tables, bar stools.
18 people. Bam.
18 people. I'm pretty sure. And their bedroom is right there.
Yeah.
It's right off the living room. So it's a cute little house and I like it. Also, they do a lot of flashbacks on the show to like talk about the past, like when Richie was born and when they were newlyweds, and they always rearrange the furniture to show you that it's in the past,
that it was before.
So like the couches are closer to the kitchen and the dining room table is over by the window.
That's so funny.
Just so you know, which is weird.
In case you were wondering.
And it seems like it's always dark outside their front window, you know, like unless you need to see that someone is coming in or something's going on outside, it's always dark out there. Like it's always nighttime or something. I don't know why that is.
Completely nighttime, yeah.
So let's talk about the cast of Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Dick Van Dyke played Robert Simpson Petrie.
Simpson. Oh, nice.
We're going to go pretty quick through that.
Let's just talk about how when I thought the Dick Van Dyke Show was called the Dick Van Dyke Show, I was expecting to watch a show where the main character's name is Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
So, like, that's interesting to me that the show is named after him, but this is completely has nothing to do with Dick Van Dyke. So,
and that
surprising to me.
Yeah, and that when they started the show, he wasn't like a well-known, he wasn't on TV before. He was a Broadway actor. And then they're like, hey, this guy, Dick Van Dyke. And
yeah,
you're like,
and here's your show. Because I was trying to think to myself and then looking at timelines, because the next character we're going to talk about, I would assume, is Mary Tyler Moore. And she's his wife, Laura Petrie. And then later on, she has a show called The Mary Tyler Moore Show.
But her name's not Mary Tyler Moore.
Correct.
But it is Mary.
But then at that point, she's also well known, right?
Yes.
So now you were on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Now you're on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
But also it was a trend at the time to have the name of the show be the man of the show, because there were like all the there are other shows where it's like the main celebrity of the show, that's the name of the show, but that's not the name of the character. But Dick Van Dyke wasn't that well known as a TV actor, so I don't really know why they did that. But that's fine, because when it wasn't the Carl Reiner show.
No,
it was Head of the Family.
True.
So Mary Tyler Moore played Laura Meeker Petrie, although sometimes her maiden name was Meehan.
No.
Also in season 1, they sometimes called her Lori.
I remember reading that too, and then I remember I thought I heard that one time when I was watching one of the shows. I was like, isn't her name Lori?
Like, what's my wife's name again?
Yeah, who knows? And she was a former dancer, right? Like that was the premise. Cool.
Yes, we're gonna get to the whole marriage.
I do have to talk about her also. Like I watched a sampling of episodes, and there were a couple episodes where she either fake cried or real cried. And oh my God, it was weird thing because it was that.
She did that all the time.
She did. You're right, just like you did. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. So like I thought, and it was interesting. I guess I just never really paid attention before, and that she just it didn't cried. See. Yeah, it was a very interesting cry. You know, I was like, that's a quirk.
She wasn't like June Cleaver.
No,
like she had her faults, and she wore pants.
Yeah,
and she would she would fix things around the house. She had her own opinions, and she wasn't like under Rob's thumb.
And there was an episode where they wanted her to go do a dancing thing, and then he wanted them not to offer her a position.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, like, he's like, because she needs to be at home and blah, blah, blah. And I think he tried to like bribe someone not to have her offered. And then she was like, oh my God, it's so much work. She didn't want to do it anyway. Yeah. So it ended up working out for both of them.
Well, there was one episode where a friend of his was teasing him, or no, his coworkers were teasing him they were talking about men and women's roles, and like the man has to be the man of the house, and he goes home and Laura is fixing the toaster, and then he like cleans up Richie and gets him in the bath, and he's like wearing an apron, and his friend comes over, and it's a whole thing.
And he's like, oh snap.
But that's how their marriage was in this show. It was like, it wasn't the stereotypical.
Right, for that era.
Yeah. So that was good. There was a lot of progressive stuff about the Dick Van Dyke Show. And Mary Tyler Moore So pretty.
She is pretty.
And it always weirded me out when I was a kid because I watched the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I liked that show when I was a kid because I was going to grow up and be Mary Tyler Moore and have a job and all that stuff and, be a single woman in the city. And so when I saw her when I was a little kid and I saw her on Dick Van Dyke, I was like, I don't understand why we went back in time and it's black and white and she's like 20 years old. Okay. So then Morey Amsterdam played Buddy Sorrell, whose first name was really Maurice. He's one of the comedy writers, and he hates his wife.
Yes.
Who is a former showgirl named Pickles.
Love that, Pickles.
He constantly makes fun of Mel, the show's producer. He has the funniest lines for this guy. He's always making fun of him.
Oh, good times.
Buddy is funny, and he says the most horrible things about his wife. And then our favorite. I'm not going to speak for both of us.
Yes, no, totally favorite.
My favorite, Rosemary.
Yes.
Played Sally Rogers. Yes. And she is always going on.
For those of you that are new.
Right. If you're new, we like to watch the Monkees.
We like to watch the Monkees a little bit.
And she was on the Monkees twice.
Yes.
She played the big man.
She played the big man for sure. So every part of this show, when I watch this Dick Van Dyke show, she is the big man.
She's the big man. There ain't no bigger.
Constantly.
I think his mother.
There's a part where they're like doing like an old Western gunslinger episode.
Okay, we're going to talk about gunslinger because I love it.
God, she's the big man.
She is so saucy and she is always going on dates and it never works out because she's like too outspoken and her personality is too strong. She finally settles down with her boyfriend Herman. Rosemary was a child star. There was a documentary about her recently. And if you can find it, you have to watch it. I forget what it's called. But it's amazing because like her dad was in the mob. Oh. And so like all these famous mob guys would get her gigs and stuff when she was a kid and when she was a teenager. And they were all her protectors and they all treated her like they were her own kid. And
wow.
She had a really interesting life. So if you can watch her documentary, it's amazing.
I'll have to. That's awesome.
She's an amazing person. And she just passed away last year.
Did she?
Was it last year or 2 years ago? Just recently.
Yeah, I think I was like looking at that to see. And great on this show. She just really like that episode that we can talk about, the gunslinger episode. She's like yelling out the window and somebody's looking for a doctor and then she's like, Doc. And they're like, he's a dentist. And she goes, Dent.
She's so funny.
And I was like, that's awesome.
Oh, I love that. There was part of that gunslinger episode when they're arguing about, or she brings him his food and she's like, there's like chicken and he's like, and how many grits? And he's like, oh, how many grits? And she goes, I don't know, 20 or 30. Which is also a joke that comes up in The Muppets Take Manhattan, I just might say. That's a movie for those of you who don't know.
Love it. And also in that episode, she's like, when they come in, she's like, we're taking bets about which way you'll fall. You want some of that action?
She's great.
She's so funny.
Larry Matthews played Richard Rosebud Petrie, who is their son. He goes by Richie. His middle name is explained in an episode. He asked, I think he's being made fun of at school or something. And he's like, Mom, why is my middle name Rosebud? So she explains to him that it's an acronym for Robert, Oscar, Sam, Edward, Benjamin, Ulysses, David. Because his parents got so many suggestions from friends and relatives that they couldn't make a decision. So they just
that's
smashed
hilarious.
it all together.
Oh, I'm going to do that. I don't have kids or plan to, but I'm just going to say, I'll do that to a pet at some point.
That's fine.
My pet's name is Rosebud. It's fine.
I'm not going to do it either. Richard Deacon played Mel Cooley, the producer of The Alan Brady Show. He's a well-known actor that's on all kinds of stuff. And I can't Google right now. Did you finish Googling whatever you were Googling?
I Googled what I was talking about.
What were you talking about?
So Sheldon Leonard was one of the producers with Carl Reiner and apparently Danny Thomas.
Of the Danny Thomas show, where his name was not Danny Thomas on the show. Okay.
And I guess Dick Van Dyke was also a producer at some point. But Sheldon Leonard is Nick, the bartender from It's a Wonderful Life, and he became a producer. And I just
so first he was on that movie and then he was a producer. Okay.
Produced the Dick Van Dyke shows, which is amazing because I love him in It's
Can
a
I
Wonderful
tell you
Life that I've seen 472,000 times.
Can I tell you something that might end our friendship?
Oh my gosh, that you've never seen It's a Wonderful Life? Because if you say that, I'll die.
First of all, I have.
You don't like it?
Don't judge me because you haven't seen some things that I've seen.
Oh, I haven't seen a lot of things that you've seen. So.
Pour your wine.
I'm pouring the wine. Glug, 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 glug.
What are we drinking?
This is...
pour the whole bottle.
I almost did. It's called... Oleda, I think. Oleda? It's a Merlot.
Oh, okay. All right.
We just switched over, so...
This is a new wine.
Yeah, it's a new wine. So third bottle. What are you going to tell me?
Second and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. So get back to me and how I'm going to disappoint you forever.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I don't like It's a Wonderful Life. I have seen it all the way through 1 or 2 times. And I've seen parts of it because it's on. Mm-hmm. I don't like it. It depresses me. And so I don't know who Nick the bartender is. I don't remember any scene with the bartender. I'm very sorry. It's probably the whole premise of the movie.
Out you go through the door or out the window.
Nope. Just
don't even remember that, do you?
Nope.
I'm gonna show you a picture. No one else is gonna know because we're on the radio.
Okay.
So you don't even remember this guy?
No.
Oh my God.
It doesn't.
We need to call my sister right now and talk about how you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life.
First of all, don't tell her. Then she won't talk to me either.
She won't talk to you either. That's true.
Okay, but
let me just talk about.
Also, you know what? When I was in college and I was in the drama department, which I should not have been because I am a terrible actor, there was a guy who was obsessed with Jimmy Stewart, and every single monologue he ever did in class was from It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh my gosh.
And
well, why
like,
wouldn't you?
How many monologues can you do from one movie?
A lot.
But even when he did monologues from other movies, he was still Jimmy Stewart. It was so weird.
Let's just
Moving on.
I could just recite every word from It's a Wonderful Life because we watched it so much as kids, and then it was on all the time.
Right,
so
it's always on.
Catch it in random spots. So if we sat down and watched It's a Wonderful Life, you could put it on mute, and I could read the whole movie for you. Let's not lie. But I digress.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Anyway, he was a producer.
I can do the same thing with UHF, but you've never seen it.
True.
So,
lots of things I haven't seen.
Tangent. Where were we? Okay. So Anne Morgan Gilbert plays Millie Harper. Sorry, Millie Helper, the neighbor and Laura's best friend.
Oh, yes. I forgot about Millie.
Yeah. So here's another thing that's interesting. It was very spooky for me. Jerry Paris played Jerry Helper, who is Millie's husband and Rob's best friend and a dentist.
He's a dentist.
He's also the only character from this show that I didn't remember existed.
Oh.
I have never seen this person before. In fact, I'm convinced that he didn't exist before, that Sam Beckett leaped back to the 60s for some reason and had him added to the show because I'm 99% sure he never existed before.
That could possibly be
It's a brand new character to me.
Yeah.
Like, I never really sat down and watched this show, but I have seen significant episodes and I've never seen this man before. I don't remember him.
That is interesting that you say that because I didn't really, don't really remember watching it as a youth, and then watched it recently. And Millie was in
of course,
quite
Millie's
a few
everywhere.
episodes, and I remember even knowing about her.
She's the spunky neighbor.
She is the spunky neighbor. So yeah, you're right. I never really thought about him like being in there.
Yeah, I've never seen him before.
You're right, Sam.
Sam, why would you even do
Jumped
that?
in.
There must be something to save somebody's life that this guy had to be on this show. So Carl Reiner played Alan Brady. Like we said, his face was never seen on camera until season 4. Jerry Van Dyke sometimes played Rob's brother, Stacey Petrie.
Ah, yes.
In a couple of episodes. And we did mention before in a past episode that he had passed up a role on Gilligan's Island to be on My Mother the Car.
Oh, that's right.
And he was later on Coach.
Yes, Coach. Okay, yes.
Yes, that's Jerry Van Dyke.
I remember all of our confusion about trying to remember who everybody was. Okay.
And now it's time for a commercial break. We hope you love listening to TV Tangents as much as we love making it. Did you know you can earn rewards for just listening? Podcoin is a free new app that literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Download the app on iPhone or Android and enter our promo code TANGENTS for 300 bonus points. The points you earn can be turned in for gift cards at places like Amazon and Starbucks. So go ahead and listen to the podcast or any podcast on Podcoin and sign up with code TANGENTS. So let's talk about some notable episodes. I first want to talk about Laura's Little Lie. Which is season 3. I don't know if you saw this one.
I don't think I did.
But this episode really messed me up for every other episode I would watch. It was one of the first ones that I watched when I was binging them recently. So Laura is avoiding signing her life insurance application because she has a secret. So the insurance guy has, like, they each, Rob and Laura each have their own insurance that they have to sign. And the guy is like trying to chase Laura around, getting her to sign this. It turns out she's been lying to Rob about her age by 2 years.
Oh, my goodness.
This whole time. Rob thought he'd married a 19-year-old, but it turns out he married a 17-year-old.
I do remember seeing somewhere that she was 17.
She was 17, which they never, like, graced this subject again that I could see in the series. Like, even when they talk about, like, she was a dancer when they met, and he was in the service, but she was 17. And sometimes they talk about, like, their wedding and how her family was there. But I'm thinking, if she was getting married at 17 illegally, then how was her family there? Because they knew she was 17.
Right.
So it turns out that because she wasn't of legal age to be married, they're not legally married.
Oh.
And when they realize that they have a son and they aren't actually married, it's crazy terrible.
Bom, bom, bom.
And Laura says, "Oh, my poor baby." And Rob says,
"That's perfect.
He might have to sleep in the den."
Oh, what?
Because they're not married. Although they do have...
Oh, wait, he has to sleep in the den. Okay, I was like, wait,
he's like,
kid?
No, he's like, I'm going to have to sleep in the den because they're not married.
We're not married.
But they have twin beds, so I don't know why it would even matter.
And you're right, they do have twin beds.
So now they're living in sin. They have a child out of wedlock. It's risque stuff.
Crazy talk in the 60s.
So now every time their marriage or dating comes up, I think about the fact that she was only 17. But the story changes all the time. So.
Oh, Lord.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So then that is kind of a cliffhanger episode. The next episode is Very Old Shoes, Very Old Rice, where they get married and set everything right, and it's fine.
I do remember seeing the twin beds, though, in one of the episodes. She was trying to wake him up one morning, and he wanted to keep sleeping, and it was just kind of a funny thing. And then she set the clock ahead, and then he got up and started doing jumping jacks in his room. It was quite funny.
So I had mentioned to you that my favorite episode was called Gunslinger, and it was one of the last episodes.
Yes.
It was shot on the set of Gunsmoke, and Rob is having a tooth pulled by Jerry, the neighbor who Sam Beckett brought into this whole thing because he wasn't there before. And he puts him under, and then he dreams about being in the Wild West. Yes. And it is hilarious.
It's so funny.
I was laughing the whole time. Especially when he, like, in the beginning of this dream, he gets off his horse and he starts walking and he realizes he left one of his boots, like, stuck in the horse's spur.
He has so many things that it's crazy. And they're over the top about it being a dream too, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's so silly, and there's all kinds of silly things that happen.
Yeah.
And it's really good. It reminds me of, I think every sitcom has, like, an episode where they just want to do something all costumey and silly.
Yes, where everybody gets to do something fun that they want to do, and it's always a dream.
Like the Monkees when they did the fairy tale episodes. Yes. It was like their fairy tale episode.
It's like this guy is looking for him, and he wants a show, and then the wife, so, like, Laura still is wife in the dream, but it's, like, different, and he shows up. She's like, "You haven't been here for 2 weeks. Don't you want to see your boy?" And it was just, like, all of this. It was way, like, over the top, which made it, I think, funnier because it was fun. And she goes, "Well, he kind of liked me a little, so maybe," she ends up dancing and trying to do a show, and then...
Because Carl Reiner... Was it Carl Reiner?
That's the Brady, the new guy? Oh, I thought that was Jerry the dentist.
Was it Jerry the dentist who's trying to shoot him?
He ends up being the guy because then he shoots.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's been a couple days since I watched it. But so the bad guy is going to shoot Rob. Yeah. Because he wants to see a show. And,
and it better be good or he'll shoot somebody.
And the reason he's having this dream is because he's got to write an episode a Wild West episode for the Alan Brady show. So that's why he's dreaming of this.
Which is good. And he ends up shooting the guy accidentally, who then also grazes his shoulder when he shoots him back. And
it's so funny.
It was really funny.
If you can find that episode, you should watch it.
It's Gunslinger. It's like this. I think it's the second to last episode.
Yeah. And the last episode was called The Last Chapter. You don't see a lot of finales in this time period where they like wrap up the show, but this one they did.
Usually they just like cut out and then we're done.
Yeah. Rob has written his memoir, and then so they show some clips from past episodes, which again is like kind of a new thing to do.
New thing for them to do.
To have a clip show. His boss, Alan Brady, wants to make a TV series out of his book. And he himself is going to play Rob. So Alan Brady, played by Carl Reiner, is going to play Rob Petrie. It's super meta. Right, because in the original pilot, Rob Reiner, who plays Alan Brady, plays Rob Petrie. And now he wants to play Rob Petrie as Alan Brady.
Oh my gosh.
So if you watch the pilot episode right after this episode,
you'd be so like, what is going on? Yes.
Yeah, that's the show that they made the pilot episode. And it's so crazy. It's so crazy they did that.
That is crazy, actually.
So, Natalie, who is the most relatable character from this show for you?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, there's obviously my love for Rose Marie, who's the big man. Because, and just, I think you said it before, like just a dominant personality. I just feel like that's me. I'm like, woo, living my life.
If we went back to 1960 something, we would probably both be.
I for sure
Sally.
would be Rose Marie, and I'd be like, hey, yeah, Sally. And I would be writing for a comedy show and like working with other guys. That's been my, I've done that whole spiel. So yeah.
She is just one of the guys. And one that I was watching, she was wearing Buddy's hat, and they were trying to write.
Yeah.
She's super
awesome.
Fun.
She's awesome. Because I love Mary
Tyler Moore.
Yes, I love Mary Tyler Moore. And she's just perfect, and she's like all nicely kept and everything. But again, no, that's not me. I'm not a 60s housewife with kids. So, but she's great. I really like her, and she's very she's relatable, I think, too, to most people.
Because she's not a perfect mom.
She's not. And she was she kept things from him. So there's that whole spiel. And of course it always comes out. But yeah, it was good too.
There was one episode where Rob and Sally and Buddy were working late, and he got a concussion because he broke a violin over his head.
Oh my goodness.
And he was supposed to go deliver something, and he ended up at a party, like a wild party, and he's got amnesia, and he's flirting hard with this woman and telling her, like, he gave her the wrong name, and he told her that he was in the army and whatever. And he left his wallet there. So then he didn't come home. And Laura was all upset that he didn't come home. And he's like, you can't be upset because I didn't come home and whatever. Everyone's there waiting for him because they think that he's like dead in a ditch somewhere.
Oh, jeez.
And then the woman that he was flirting with, who's like in love with him, shows up at the house because she's got his wallet.
Oh, no.
That was a whole thing. And it was super risque.
Whoa. It's the 60s. What are you doing?
I know. I was
crazy.
Like, why'd you could do that?
Crazy stuff. But yeah.
Any other episodes that struck your fancy?
I don't think so. I loved the one, like I said, I loved the one where he came in as the dad, like where they had all the dads come in or whatever. And it was so funny because they were so very like, we haven't asked your dad yet. Like they had asked a couple guys
He's
twice.
Not interesting.
And then he comes in and he ends up killing it, like doing his whole spiel and just entertaining the kids, which I thought was cute. So those were always fun times. And you just see episodes like that where he was relatable as like a dad too. So he's like doing his thing, but then he was a dad. So.
And he's always messing up a little.
Yeah.
But not a lot. And he and Laura love each other.
Yeah, they really do love each other. And I watched part of one. I didn't get to see the whole thing. He bought her some god-awful necklace that was gigantic and huge and not attractive at all. And then he made her wear it like all the time. And she's like, yeah, I love it. Oh, like she was just totally crazy. But you could tell, so that was like their thing too, that they loved each other. And she was just like, oh yeah, honey, it's great. But I'm going to keep it in this box. And he's like, no, wear it with your nightgown. I mean, it was so funny. But I'm like, oh, they're so cute
and
together.
They're all jokey too. There was one episode, I don't remember what was going on, but she like stormed out of the house. She's like, I'm leaving you. And she stormed out the house. She wasn't serious. And he turns around on the couch and like slumps down and says, that's all it took? And then she comes back like 5 minutes later.
She's like, nope, here I am.
They're funny. They're a funny
It's a
couple.
real fun show. It's like a fun little entertaining, cute show that has a lot of comedy. And it's just, I wish, and I may have to watch more
I'm
of
gonna
it.
watch it. Yeah. Because now I'm in a habit of watching it like every day. So I have to.
It's super cute. So like, I love it. I hope we like encourage people to watch it because it's just really cute. And anybody who has watched it or was a huge fan of it, either way back in the day or watched reruns of it, drop us some lines and tell us what you think about it.
So we do want to talk about all the shows that you want to talk about.
Yes.
So we asked our followers on the Twitter to suggest a few shows, and we're going to put them into a hat and pull one out. And that's what we're going to talk about next week.
I love it.
This is so unpredictable because you don't know what we're going to have to
shake up the hat.
Listen to. I have a real hat.
First of all, I love that hat.
Thank you.
I thought you were like,
no, this
me
is
a
an
hat
actual
so we could
hat.
wear props.
Oh,
I was like so excited.
If you want to wear it, but now it has all this stuff in it.
It's super cute. It has all those things in it.
It actually looks weird on my head.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not a hat person.
I was wearing a
beach
hat earlier this week, not to
I have one
brag,
of those.
but
yeah, because you're in Florida. Well, I was here working. Do you want to pull the thing out of the hat?
I'll pull a thing out of the hat.
All right, get something good because there's.
Hold on. Here we go.
I just put the suggestions.
Wait. Okay.
In there. What you got?
This is a suggestion that we should watch.
Yep.
It's the $6 Million Man.
The $6 Million Man.
Ooh,
we can do that. It's on like
that.
Cozy TV right now or something.
Yeah, I actually think I have it set to record because I was kind of excited. Yeah, I was looking over some suggestions from fans, and I'm like, oh yay! I'm glad people want to see certain things.
We have so much wine here.
We have so much wine.
Starting to sweat wine. So okay, so next week we'll do the $6 Million Man.
Love it.
You gonna be ready for that?
I'll be ready. I have a
Okay.
I'll be all in.
All right. So hey, if you want to hear us talk more about Friends, the TV show, find us on Patreon because we did a couple bonus episodes there. You can subscribe for as little as $2 a month. Podcasting is so fun.
It is so fun.
But it does cost a little bit of money. Yes. So when you support the show on Patreon, you're actually helping us keep the podcast going. That couple dollars or whatever doesn't go into our pockets. It actually goes towards making this show. Yes. And you can get extra content or other fun stuff depending on what tier you choose. And we will shout you out on the air. So please know that up front.
Yes, we'll mention you by name if you
and we'll be like, woo, woo,
sponsor us. Woohoo.
So please go to Patreon and please see us on Instagram and the Facebook.
And the Facebook and the Twitter.
Do you have anything else to say about the Dick Van Dyke?
I don't think I have anything to say about the Dick Van Dyke show.
Dick Van Dyke.
It's been great. And we've had fun texting each other about the show. And what we're going to talk about.
No, we can text each other more about
the Dick Van Dyke show.
Dick Van Dyke.
Good times.
Good times. Okay, well, we out of here.
We out.
And let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining us. We'd love it if you would leave a review and also follow us on Facebook. Be sure to tune in next week for more TV tangents. Insert theme song. That is Dick Van Dyke that I don't know.
The Dick Van Dyke Show.
The Dick Van Dyke Show.
Dick Van Dyke.
Surprisingly,
Rosemary. Morey Amsterdam.
And Jerry Mathers.
And Jerry Mathers has the beaver.